We're going to start this morning with a quiz, because quizzes keep you awake, all right? And so you're going to go through some different road shots and see if you can tell where you are. All right, see how much, I'm going to find out how much attention you pay while you're driving.
Okay.
All right, slide number 1.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, you go down this road and on your left.
I'm not looking for directions, I'm looking for places.
Something like that.
All right,
Go down this dirt
All right,
road and
Coneville.
you take a right. And you go down a little.
You got map question this right here. All right. Here we go. Next slide. I'm looking for the location. Looking for the location. All right. You're awake. You're with me. All right. Now we're going to get a little bit harder. Yeah. All right. Now this one's going to challenge you. Right? It's on Fishing Creek. Yeah.
Oh, it's down by you guys' house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just below Knowles a little ways down where Atkins Road bears off that hard right, looking back. Boy, you guys pay attention while you drive. Man. All right, there's a couple more. As an aside, you know when you're running around taking pictures in a snowy day, like of signs, people slow down and kind of point at you. Yeah. Thank you, Lena. All right. Okay. Next one. Yeah. Bottom of the hill out here, Redmond Hill. Here we go. All right.
That's quite
Hey, that's a road.
Jameson knows that one. All right. You guys are good. Now, what did all these slides have in common? There are roads. General direction, showing us direction. Yeah, each one of them had a bend in the road, a curve in the road. And what we're going to be getting to today is the idea that God uses the windy roads of our lives to get us somewhere. Our lives are not very much like an interstate going through Nebraska. Our lives are a lot more like Potter County roads. There's surprising bends in the road, there's obstacles that we need to drive around. There are surprises that we don't expect, and bends and curves in our road. And that's something that we've been going through. As we've been going through the Book of Ruth, we've been thinking about the different curves and bends that have happened. The beginning of the story was where Ruth and Naomi came back to Bethlehem empty. Naomi even said, I come back empty. Their husbands had died, they had nothing. Pretty big bend in the road. I doubt that's what they thought at one point in life, that they would have absolutely nothing. Then we get to chapter 2, and there's hope. That Boaz is on the scene, he's letting Ruth glean, he's giving them food, and there's hope, but at the same time, he's not making his move. Get that one? It's a good one, all right? You'll get it later. He's not making his move. He's not saying, Ruth, will you marry me? He's not doing any of that stuff. You're kind of thinking, oh, this is coming together good, but Boaz is just kind of taking his time. And then we go on in the story, and we get to chapter 3, and things are looking good. Remember, Ruth did that risky thing of going to Boaz and pretty much saying, hey, will you marry me? And Boaz says, yes, but I'm second in line. There's other people ahead of me, so there's this other curve in the road, you know? It's like, it looks like it's this perfect love story, but then it's not. There's this other bend in the road. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is that next bend in the road that we're coming around. What I can't help but think is that our lives are a lot like Ruth's. There's corner after corner. Our lives are going along, and all of a sudden there's this expected disappointment. Maybe there's a good thing that happens, but it's unexpected. It kind of takes us off in a different direction. Maybe we've moved unexpectedly. Maybe somebody's died unexpectedly. Maybe there's been something really exciting that's happened that's caused us to kind of move in a different direction than we anticipated. Life is full of corners and bends. Let's take a look at Ruth chapter 4, verses 1 through 6. It's page 189 in the Pew Bibles. Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat there. When the kinsman redeemer he had mentioned came along, Boaz said, "Come over here, my friend, and sit down." So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, "Sit here," and they did so. Then he said to the kinsman redeemer, "Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling a piece of land that belonged to her brother Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you, and I am next in line." "I will redeem it," he said. Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the land from Naomi and from Ruth the Moabitess, you acquire the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." At this the kinsman redeemer said, "Then I cannot redeem it because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it." We're going to walk through these verses and look at some of the key phrases. Okay, the first thing, picture on the left, what's that key word that's bringing out for us? The gate. Yeah, the city gate at this time, this is sort of like where they had their town hall, courthouse sort of thing. It's where the big stuff that happens takes place. It's kind of the public forum. And so they're going to work out how they're going to handle Elimelech's estate. And so they meet at the gate, and Boaz is talking about the next picture. Sort of like recycling bin, but high tech. You put the can in and change comes out. You redeem your can. Come on. A redemption center. Boaz talks to this other person. He says, "Are you going to redeem the land?" You see, the land is supposed to stay in the family. And so we can't tell from the story, maybe he's talking about they need to buy it back from people who are holding it because of debts. Or maybe they just need to pay for the right to have a transfer within the family. But the land needs to be redeemed. And a part of that redemption is that marry the widow. And so in the story, it's interesting because at first, the guy's like, yeah, that's good. I like the land. And then he finds out the full package and he says, "No, you should do that." All right? So this kind of transfer, and it's an interesting aspect of going from yes to no. I don't want to give the wrong impression of who's labeled as the kinsman redeemer. The kinsman redeemer is the guy who's closest in line to fulfilling this obligation. He doesn't have to say yes. He's not a bad guy to say no. What's going to happen is he probably has a family. And so the inheritance that he has now will get split up amongst other kids that are sort of not his. So he's making it just a common sense decision. He's not doing something bad. He's just saying, "No, I don't think so." He's just kind of doing an average thing. When we think about how our lives have corners, unexpected switchbacks, it is our opportunity to be extraordinary. That's what happens in this story. There is switchback after switchback that takes place, corner after corner, and there's an opportunity for extraordinary. Think about Boaz and Mr. So-and-so. We're not giving his name, so let's just go with Mr. So-and-so. Boaz is extraordinary. He is allowed for gleaning. He has given food for Ruth and Naomi. He has gone to the city gate to try to make things right. Extraordinary. Mr. So-and-so is average. He showed up at the gate. He said, I'll do my responsibility. Found out it'd be inconvenient. Found out it would cost him something. He said, no. Nothing wrong with it, but average. So think about the story of who we would rather be. Normal? Or, let me use average. Normal doesn't apply to me. So let's go with average. Average or extraordinary? It's not the first time we've seen this image in the story. At the beginning we had Ruth and Orpah. Ruth who said, I'm going to cling to you no matter what. I'm going to go wherever you go. And Orpah who said, I'm going with you, but it's a little inconvenient now. Not bad, but average. When we get into the corners of life, we have a decision to make. Am I just going to try to get through this corner? Am I just going to try to survive it? Or am I going to do something extraordinary? Each one of us has undoubtedly faced one of those corners in the last month, the last year. Something unexpected happened. Take a minute to think right now about if there's an opportunity for you to do something extraordinary for someone around you. Even in the midst of something unexpected, even in the midst of something that is, you're not exactly sure where this corner's taking you, what is something that you can do extraordinary for someone around you? I want to explain extraordinary just a little bit more. And to do that, I want to talk about a guy named Blaise Pascal. French guy, 1600s. He didn't quite live to be 40 years old, but he did tremendous things. And the first picture up there is what?
Calculator with dice.
Calculator with dice. So he made the first mechanical calculator. Pretty impressive. He did all sorts of research about probability. He also came up with the idea for the syringe and other hydraulic type things. He made Pascal's triangle. It has to do with binary coefficients. I don't know. That's what Wikipedia says. And the last thing, he worked on religious philosophy. He's the guy who came up with Pascal's wager. He talked about how, using probability, how it's reasonable to have faith in God. Kind of a breakthrough sort of thing. If you notice, this guy is breakthrough after breakthrough. Less than 40 years old, all these accomplishments. Think about his quote. The virtue of a man ought to be measured not by his extraordinary exertions, but by his everyday conduct. If we want to do something extraordinary, it's not necessarily getting that huge accomplishment, as much as living day to day in the corners of life in a way in which we might be extraordinary to someone around us. We're going to go on to later on in chapter 4. Leave that extraordinary piece kind of in our mind. You guys are so good at maps. This is my kind of map. Alright? Maps get so confusing to me. So this says...
Good fishing on 11-mile road.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, fish hatchery. This is the directions to Wellsville. Right? You go to the fish hatchery, you go over that glorified logging road, you end up on 11 Mile, and then you keep going. Yeah? Alright? It's my kind of directions. Alright. Now, when we first moved, we found out that was the fastest way, and you want to make efficient use of those roads to make sure it's faster. And our kids started calling it Sickening Street. Depending on who was driving. And there was this sense of nausea to get there. Let's not talk about my driving. Let's go with this illustration a little bit more. You're getting distracted. I was talking about how we can do extraordinary things in corners and winding roads. Let's be honest, it's nauseating. The bends and curves of life is nauseating. It's so important to remember that we have a hope of a destination to get to. It's important to hold on to the hope of how can we help people while we're in these corners and these bends, but we have to hold on to the hope of a destination that we're getting to, because it's nauseating in the meantime. That's the sort of hope that is given in verses 11 and 12. Then the elders and all those at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel. May you have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." It's the idea of hold on to the hope that the best is yet to come. There's a short-term best is yet to come, and they're talking about Rachel, Leah, Perez, Tamar. Rachel, Leah, and Tamar all had significant periods of time where they could not have children. Remember, Ruth was married for 10 years and did not have any children. This blessing that they're saying is, may God bless you in the short term. May God bless you with the best yet to come of having children. There's a short-term desire. May this windy road lead to a blessing that's just wonderful. Even more, there's a longer-term blessing that they're pointing towards, and that is, may you be famous in Bethlehem. Reminding us that in a few more generations, a baby named David is going to be born in Bethlehem, who will be King David. Generations after him in Bethlehem will be born in a stable a baby by the name of Jesus. A long-term hope to hold on to. When you and I are in those corners of life, not really sure what's around the next corner, it's so important we hold on to the hope, an eternal hope of a future that God has promised. It's a hope of eternal life. Of no matter what comes our way, that we can spend eternity with God. That's a hope that we share. No matter what corner you're going into, no matter what bend you're on right now, hopefully we hold on to two things. One is that we have the opportunity to do something extraordinary for those around us by living a faithful life. The other is to hold on to the hope, an eternal hope that Jesus Christ offers. Hope that at some point there will be a time in which there's no more crying, no more pain. A hope of everything being restored the way it should be. A hope that you and I share.